Hello everybody, welcome to Light Philosophy. Have you ever wondered why you feel guilty when you do something wrong? And even, frankly, why do you know what's right and wrong? What makes you know? Well, let's try to understand that. We want to talk about Freud's id, ego, and superego principle. Now this is a pretty cool principle, an example that I love because it's just a funny example, but it's also really accurate, which is a fun thing to see. And that's the example of Kronk, or Kronk, however you want to say it, from Emperor's New Groove, and the other movie that he was in, that was like the Kronk's New Groove or something. Anyway, it has some good scenes that show the shoulder angel and the shoulder devil, and it's fun to kind of see how they interact with each other and how they interact with him, because it seems to be pretty accurate to how you would probably see the id and the superego and ego all interact.
Where's the other guy?
No!
Oh, sorry, I'm late. Oh.
Id is the devil. He's like, don't listen to that little loser. He's wearing a dress.
And that's a dress.
Bro!
And he's trying to tell you, I'm gonna lead you down the path that rocks.
I'm gonna lead you down the path that rocks.
If you want to think of it as a baby, this is our primal instincts to eat, to sleep, to drink, to reproduce. And it's the reason that babies, when they don't get what they want, they cry and they whine and they are so fussy. It's because they just have their id working. They're just trying to survive. Babies haven't learned to understand that you can't always get what you want when you want it, and you won't necessarily die if you don't have it right away. They don't know that yet. They're new. Who knew? The id, in the most basic form of it, it operates on what Freud calls the pleasure principle, which is essentially just saying you focus on the things that give you pleasure. Food, sex, sleeping, things that make you stay alive, wrapping up the id. The id is your unconscious primitive instincts. When you want something, like now, that's the id. And when you don't have it, it causes you anxiety because you're like, am I gonna survive? Yes, you're gonna survive. Just chill. The id causes you to do stuff that's not necessarily socially acceptable, and you start to learn that when you're a child, when you get punished. That's what leads to the birth of the ego. The ego is, you can think of it as yourself, as your conscious self, what you are trying to choose. I say trying because there's a lot of influence from the unconscious, and the unconscious, as I said, is the id and the superego both, and even the ego a little bit. The ego is developed usually within the first 3 years or so of a child's life because they need to learn to manage themselves in society. They need to learn what's good and what's bad, and what you can do now and what you cannot do now. The ego introduces what's known as the reality principle. The reality principle is the part of yourself that thinks, oh, well, I want this, but I can't realistically have it right now, so I'm going to do such and such to get it. For example, the id will say, I want food now, and I'm in this class. I'm in a class, I want food. Id will say, just go leave. The guy's eating some snacks next to you, taking his stuff. Yeah. That's the ego. The ego goes, boy, chill. No, don't take his food. Just wait. You're not gonna die. You are gonna make it. Breathe. If you want to think of an analogy that Freud used himself, the id is like a horse and the ego is like a horse rider. The id provides the power and the motivation, whereas the ego tries to direct it. Because as time develops, you get a bit more complex in your decision making. And that is where we introduce the superego, which Freud says roughly develops around the ages of 5 or so. And then the superego is a shoulder angel that is trying to tell you, don't listen to that guy, he's a jerk.
Ah, fine, you win. Oh, yeah.
The superego is effectively the part of you that processes the morals and values that you've learned from your parents, from your other authority figures, your family, sometimes your friends, often your friends. Now the superego has two parts. There's the ego ideal, which is effectively just what do you think you are? Or better yet, what do you want to be? What is kind of your perfect self? The second part is the conscience. Your conscience. Duh. It's pretty simple. The Jimmy Cricket, the little don't do that, don't do this, just or do this. The conscience is what makes you feel guilty and anxious and kind of just like icky when you do something that is not in line with your ego ideal or the person that you want to see yourself as. It's important to understand when I say that the superego is what kind of prompts you to know what's right and wrong, that's mostly true. I say mostly true because there's a lot of overlap between what the id, the ego, and the superego do. There's not really like defined lines. And so that's what I want to talk about now is, now that we know about what the id is and the superego is and the ego, I want to talk about how they interact. When Kronk and his shoulder angel and shoulder devil show up, you can kind of see it usually happens when he's feeling anxious.
You're not just gonna let him die like that, are you?
My shoulder angel.
Don't listen to that guy. He's trying to lead you down the path of righteousness.
Which is fitting of the nature of the id and the superego. Because the superego, his goal is to just push down the id completely and try to like lift up the ego and be like, do the good things.
Do you want to know something else? I've never liked your spinach puffs. Never!
That's it. She's going down. Now, remember guys. From above, the wicked shall receive their just reward. That'll work.
What generally happens is the superego, he is not the best either. Even though he's super. But it doesn't mean that he's the better part of you. The superego is simply the part of you that makes you feel kind of guilty when you do something wrong. And that's not always the best. Like, that sucks. But it does help us to improve. And so there is benefits to both. This guy helps you survive. This guy helps you be a good person. But you choose how. You choose who you are. You choose the ego. The ego chooses how it's going to react to the stimulus around it. The id, the ego, the superego, they all interact. We know that. We feel that every day. That's what gives us that feeling of anxieties and guilt. The anxiety often comes when we're not getting our way or what we want immediately, when we're hungry, when we're attracted to someone. I mean, we just want to like talk to a girl or a boy. We don't necessarily know how to do it, and that causes anxieties because we feel like we have to, so we can know that we can have the potential to reproduce in the future. That's the primitive brain. Men and women have it. Primitive brain, dangerous. The ego is yourself that says, no, you guys just stop.
Listen, you guys, you're sort of confusing me, so, be gone. Or, however I get rid of you guys.
That'll work.
When the ego is here, he's saying, I don't know what to do. I feel like I should do this. Is usually kind of how it goes. There's a lot of influence from the id and the superego trying to help you to know if that's the right choice, and that's why you feel kind of anxious when you're making decisions, is because you feel like you need to live, but you also feel like you need to be a good person so that you'll be appreciated and loved. And that's why there's overlap, because love is a super important part of who we are and who we feel we need to be. Love comes in all three of the personalities sections. You feel like you need to be loved in the id, you feel like you need to be loved in the ego, and you feel like you need to be loved in the superego. And that's why they all kind of work together, is to help you to survive. That's what's truly fascinating about Freud's principle and theory of the id, the ego, and the superego. And I hope I helped you understand a little bit more. I hope to see you again next time on Life Philosophy.